Good morning, and welcome to Let Us Reason Together, the Friday edition. I'm your host, where's my name? Lawrence Segeri, but you can call me Larry. And this is what happens on Friday edition. A former non-believing Jew, a former Christian, and a former Catholic go on a talk show together. What do they talk about? Well, we'll find out in a little while. Our show is based on Isaiah 1:18. Come now and let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool. So this telecast is where we sit down and reason out Torah, religion, how to save the world, and of course, this week's Torah portion. Now, join us. Right now, it's two of us, but should be three pretty soon as we midrash and are transformed in the way the Ruach, the Spirit, wants us to be, and maybe have a little fun along the way. So I'd like to bring in my two buds. Maybe it's 1.5 buds right now.
I'm a little flashy today, I think.
I see that. Mark David Smith. How are you, Mark?
I'm well, every now and then, it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm still alive and well.
Good.
Still alive and well.
Always bringing back those past hits.
Oh, yeah. Those things linger in your head through the years. So. How art thou, Gary?
I'm fine on this first day of Hanukkah.
On the first day of Hanukkah. Oh, that's not the way.
That's something else.
Maybe
we'll talk about that a little bit later. What do you think?
Yeah. How about Happy Hanukkah? Happy Hanukkah. That's not the way it goes either.
I don't know. That sounds good to me, and we sounded pretty good together too. Well, Mark, let me tell you, about 18 years ago, when I was just starting this walk, this messianic walk.
You were just a boy?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was done having boys by then.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, we're with you.
I was just pretty new in the walk, and I was going to Wilmington to meet with a little group that met in the office of a factory. That was the leader of the group was the owner of the factory, and we would meet in his office there, and we were discussing the parsha about Abraham sacrificing Isaac, his son.
Yeah. And
I thought, do some research on the parsha before you get there. And I found that there are some rabbis who believe that Abraham actually did go ahead and kill Isaac, and resurrected him. And I brought that up in the meeting, and I got just about shouted down by the 6 people there, and they accused me of starting a fire on Shabbat, and I didn't go back then. After that, I was like, just trying to bring in a discussion. Well, today I'm going to start another fire, but at least it's not on Shabbat yet.
So difference.
We're going to talk about Hanukkah today. And my main question is, should, since Hanukkah is not one of the Moedim, the appointed times of Yahweh, should believers in Yeshua celebrate that non-Torah feast, the 8 days of Hanukkah? Now, I was going to ask David, since he's a a former non-believing Jew and knows all about Hanukkah and how to celebrate and stuff like that. I was going to ask him to give us historical background to Hanukkah, but he's not here.
So when you say former non-believing Jew, you're like he was non-believing in the Messiah at that
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. Yeah. Well, he'll be in. Hopefully, I'm thinking positive. Hopefully, he'll be in. We haven't heard anything from him, so and that's real unusual for David. David does have problems with his computer a couple of times. We've had to switch over to different things, but maybe he'll be in. And in my opinion, yeah, sure. I think that I would almost say I'm a little bit more of a liberal messianic than a lot of the others. I'm kind of open to a lot of different things. To me, my life boils down to what things that cause me to think of the Lord or the lifestyle of the Lord in a negative way, then I just stay away from those. I don't want to be influenced by those.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's positive, different things that we do and different, events that we're a part of and stuff, if it's positive, to our lifestyle and how we think about the Lord, how we think about our lifestyle, how we think about Torah, which is the lifestyle. I don't see anything wrong with any of those things. They don't draw us away from the Lord, that type of thing. I mean, you could say that same question about a billion different things that we come in contact with on a day-to-day basis. We live in the world. We may not be of the world,
Yep.
But John 17:14, we're not of the world. We're just here partaking through the world until it's time. But I think that's really my answer to all of it across the board. When you start getting into the picking things apart and being orthodox by things, there are orthodox
Mm-hmm.
people that live messianic and they're going to follow the letter of the law and everything just precisely. And boy, if you do one thing that really isn't Torah, then it's kind of like you're a Torah terrorist on all the different things, or you're not doing it the way they think it should be done and that kind of stuff. That's a Torah terrorist to me. It really is. And it's like I just stay away from those people. I don't even try to reason with them because people like that are unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just don't think it's a problem doing Hanukkah. It's the feast of dedication. We can take it in 100 different ways, and I know you heard Rabbi Darrell's teaching on it last week, which was real good. He always takes it to that point, and it's real good. By the way, it's available on the website. If you go on the lamnetwork.tv website, there's a link to Darrell's last teaching and also the O'Hare's. But we're all trying to cover different areas of it. So what's your thought on it then? I mean.
Well, it's historically, it only deals with the Jewish people. And I think that people would have problems with it because it's a Jewish thing. I know as a Christian, as a Catholic, Hanukkah to me, which I really didn't hear about it that much. We were so caught up with our own the Advent season and getting ready for Christmas that we didn't have time to think about what the Jews were doing. But when I became a born again Christian, I know that the feeling about Hanukkah was that, well, that's the Jewish answer to Christmas. They have 8 days. We got 12 days. Who wins? And with Abe Sandler's song about the 8 days of Hanukkah, how we've got crazy 8 crazy nights, and the Christians only have one night. Well, no, we got the 12 days of Christmas, and now shopping wise, we got the 50 days of Christmas.
Yeah, gosh.
It's and as soon as Christmas is over, it's like it's gone. But in terms of Hanukkah being for a believer in Yeshua as the Messiah and walking the Messianic lifestyle, Yeshua honored it. And I think it's John 8. It's where he declared himself when he was in the temple, because as I understand it, it wasn't a feast that anybody was supposed to go to, but people did show up in the temple because it was the rededication of the temple, and it was declared to be like a second Sukkot, in which they lit up everything around the temple area. So it was bright lights all the time during those 8 days, and Yeshua showed up for it, and that's when I think it was the Sadducees and the Pharisees got together. As little as they got together, they did get together for this time and asked him, if you're the Messiah, why don't you declare yourself? And that's when I believe he declared that he was one with the Father. And that kind of blew their mind. So my thinking is, if it's good enough for Yeshua, it should be good enough for the followers. And historically, Mark, I think it's a prophetic kind of scene too, because historically the Maccabees were going against the world system, and Antiochus Epiphanes was like the archetype of the coming anti-Messiah. I mean, the things that he did to the temple, I believe, are going to be repeated when the anti-Messiah shows up, according to what Daniel says. And so a celebration of the triumph of people returning to the Torah and being able to participate and go back to the Messianic or the Torah lifestyle, it is something that we should value, because they took the time to really sacrifice and go against the world system with their lives, and they were triumphant by the blessings of the Lord. And what did they do with their triumph? Well, they rededicated the temple. And I know a lot of the Christian background that I have is that the temple is useless. It's been destroyed. It's never going to be made again because of what Yeshua did. But I don't see that in Scripture. I don't see that in the prophets. I think the temple is still a very important thing, very important concept to Yahweh and his plan of salvation for everyone. I kind of hate the way that, just like as a Roman Catholic, former Roman Catholic, we had kind of the monopoly on Christmas and how it should be celebrated. We had the 4 weeks of Advent, and you don't talk about Christmas all that time. You're preparing for it. You have an Advent wreath, and every night you say prayers around the Advent wreath, and you light another candle every week until you get to the fourth candle, and then the fifth candle is what you do on Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, you start from there and go 12 days to the end of the Christmas season. So the 12 days of Christmas start on Christmas Day. And one of the things that we were always talking about amongst my family was, look what people are doing with Christmas. I mean, it's all, shopping and
They're not doing it my way.
outdoing it. And then when I found out that you get gifts 8 days for Hanukkah, it's like, well, that's just as bad. So we celebrate Hanukkah, but we do it not with the anticipation of gifts and stuff like that. We do it in anticipation of honoring the Lord again for what he did so many years ago. Now, I had a whole bunch of different questions.
Well, let me respond to what you talked about. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good with your response.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taking notes, of course. It's interesting. You were talking about Yeshua. It's recorded that he was a part of the dedication ceremony. It never says Hanukkah in there, anything like that. It was a feast of dedication, I think is what it mentions. But in defense of your previous almost way of looking at it, Jesus was a Jew. So if Hanukkah is just for the Jews, it's a Jewish thing, celebrating Jews, celebrating those things. Jesus was a Jew. So you could almost use that to defend the fact that we shouldn't do it because whatever, I disagree with that. But, and another thing is that when Christians say that Hanukkah is just the Jewish way of celebrating Christmas, then I ask the question, which came first? The whole Maccabees dedication Hanukkah thing, did that happen before Yeshua was born? Because that's what Christmas is supposed to be about. Which came first? So if Hanukkah, all that happened with the Maccabees and everything, if all that happened long before Yeshua was born, or in your case, Jesus was born, Mr. Christian, then it's not the Jews' way of celebrating Christmas. It's your way of celebrating Hanukkah, because Hanukkah came first. So get it in order there, it would be my argument to that point, I guess I should say. So, yeah, and you were talking about how some Christians will get down on, I guess I took it as Catholics are doing it with the Advent or whatever it is, and Christians think that's wrong. Well, it all comes down to everything else man does. If you're not doing it my way, the way I grew up, the way my parents taught me that Christmas should be done, and this is the way it's supposed to be done because that's Christmas, and if you do it different, then you're not doing it my way. And it's everything. It's kind of the same. Goes back to your original question: should Messianics even be doing Hanukkah? Well, it's not even all you're doing is remembering. And so if you do it a different way than somebody else, then, all it is remembering. And it's the same thing with Christmas. Christmas is not a guarantee, we're just doing it our way. We're doing whatever way. Anyway, that's kind of my things I was thinking about while you were doing your little spiel.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well, one of the questions that I was thinking about is, if you're going to use the argument that you should only do the things that are in the Torah, the feasts, and not do these extra biblical, let's say, feasts. And historically, we know that synagogues weren't, the system of synagogues weren't used by the Jews until after the Babylonian captivity. Why do we meet on the Sabbath in a group when Exodus 16 verses 29 and 30 gives the command that you should not leave your tent? And I believe that there are rabbinic laws about how far you can travel on Shabbat when it's
a day's journey.
So that you're kind of following that do not leave your tent bit, and yet we're going ahead. But then again, in the Brit Hadashah, you have Yeshua saying that he's going to synagogue because it was his custom to do it. And so, where do we draw the line when it comes to, are we going to do only what Torah says, or the Messiah kind of did things outside of Torah too? Where do we draw the line for that? Because does that not open up things to, say, Christmas? It's celebrating the Messiah's birthday, or so we say.
I see your point. I see your point. The key to that, to me, to the last part of that anyway, is that we should be, like say, okay, I started off by saying I'm more of kind of a liberal messianic, okay? And liberals are known to be a little bit out of the box. They don't do everything exactly the way everybody else says to do it. But yet a liberal is still a person that looks at the value of something, looks at the reason for doing something. It may not be the norm the way everybody else does it, or even variations of that, but we still have an ethical, moral integrity to uphold, So did Yeshua celebrate his birthday? I don't see one line in any place in the Brit Hadashah that talks about the word birthday is not even mentioned in anywhere. And so he didn't even celebrate, according to scripture. Or I shouldn't say that, because I don't believe the Brit Hadashah is scripture. According to anything that we've read in any parts of the Bible, they didn't celebrate birthdays, but yet because of our Greek culture, the pagan culture that we're a part of, they take what's holy and bring it into the pagan world. In other words, we do birthdays. We celebrate birthdays, even though Hebrew people probably don't. and Yeshua probably didn't, that's what we do. So why shouldn't we celebrate somebody's birthday? I mean, even my gosh, people of the world celebrate Beyonce's birthday. You know, do you get what I'm saying though? I mean,
yeah.
They celebrate their idols. And to me, I think a lot of time Jesus is just an idol. It's just an idol that fits in. If they had bobbleheads of all their idols, Jesus would just be somewhere in the middle in there.
That's so very interesting that you say that. Yeah.
You know, so they and it's really classical that the world brings what is holy into their realm and not our realm to acclimate into what's holy. You know, and do away with things that aren't holy and stay, you know, it's a mesh world that we live in. It really is. And that's why it's all stinking screwed up in our society and in the religious society of the world, period, is because we just accept that we can just mesh our belief systems. You know, we don't find a belief. What's that one where they do the church and
ecumenical?
Just playing with my fingers there, and I thought of that church thing. Anyway, but you get what I'm saying. It's just, and that's why things are so screwed up. We don't have any integrity in what we believe or what we celebrate.
Mm-hmm. And there's that command: be set apart, for I am set apart.
There you go.
And yet, what we do is we take things that we like, and we say that we're setting it apart for the Lord, for His work. And it's like, no, use the stuff that He has set apart, and that's where the blessing comes in. But you know, and that's human nature. I mean, I know that you speaking of bobbleheads, I know that you have no concept of this, but I was always in front of a statue as a little Roman Catholic. Standing in front of the statue of Jesus, talking to it, standing in front of the statue of Mary and talking to it, and we've got the little baby in the manger and stuff, and going kneeling down to him and touching him, and in a sense, it freaked me out, you know. But it's like, okay. I was waiting for the Chucky thing to happen. The eyes open, you know. And some people have declared that does happen with some of those statues. You know, it's like, but that's going down a different place.
It's okay because I'm writing down something. I have been quite what's the word, irreverent in my life. Well, I mean, you know, you go into a Catholic church and Jesus is still up on the cross.
Right.
I couldn't tell you how many times, even my wife and my family and I and stuff, if we ever walk into a Catholic church, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, Jesus, come down, man.
Yeah.
You're not up on the cross anymore, man. That's what our whole life is based on. It's the fact that you came down off of the cross. Well, I mean, come on.
Let me explain that, my dear boy.
You go right ahead.
Because the Sunday worship ceremony is the recreation of the sacrifice of Jesus. It's reinstituted every time the Mass is celebrated. They are offering up Jesus again. So that's why he's still up there. Now, let me tell you something. When I taught in the Catholic school for 12 years. And in the midst of that, I got saved. And it wasn't a week into me being saved that every classroom has a crucifix up on the wall and a statue of Mary to the side too. Well, something happened in my classroom and the crucifix fell down and Jesus broke. And I didn't know what to do. So I just hung the cross back up there and put Jesus, the little pewter Jesus, aside.
Pewter? Did you just say pewter Jesus?
Pewter Jesus, yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And then a little while longer, and something happened to the Mary statue, and it fell down and cracked. And the funny thing was, inside the statue was a cigarette butt. So and it was made in Italy, of course, get all your stuff. But whoever was making these statues just stuck his. But the principal came in one day after that and said, "Where's your crucifix?" I said, "It's right up there." "That's not a crucifix." I said, "It fell down," and I just put it back up. And where's your statue? "We got to get you supplied again because this is not right." So it's like somebody was trying to tell me something. And
Great story. Broken Mary statue with a cigarette butt in it.
I was amazed. I was shocked.
We're having fun without you, David.
Well, I heard the last episode, and while you talked about the Mary breaking and the Jesus breaking, I thought that sounds like when the curtain was torn. I think there's something, the curtain in the Holy of Holies upon the death of when Yeshua gave up the ghost. And here I thought, well, there may be a parallel here.
That's a new one on me. We're getting a little bit of an echo when we talk there, David. I don't know.
Soon after that, I got a job offer in North Carolina, and I went to talk to the principal about me possibly leaving. And I got the old "don't let the screen door hit you in the back" kind of exit. And that happened again to me when I went to talk to our pastor. When I started walking the Messianic way, I went to talk with the pastor, and he gave me the old "don't let the screen door hit you on the way out," that kind of stuff. So, well, welcome, David.
Oh, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. This is the last Friday show for a while that I'll be doing, but that I'll be doing from this home. But that's another story. Okay. But it's good to be here. And so I know we're talking about Hanukkah and how the fact that it's I'm from what I remember is we pre-talked about it's not really in Torah as one of the feast days, but right. Yeshua was following it. So what do we make of that, and how do we compare and contrast other cultural days with whether they're allowed? Have we gotten to that point yet?
Yeah, we
was about half hour ago.
Around it, we discussed around it. Several rabbi trails and different things, and so
I think. But you know what? I know there were a lot of. This is well before Constantine added in a whole lot of cultural days of the pagans and the town folk. So, but the difference with Hanukkah is that Hanukkah celebrates not so much that the oil lasted 8 days. That's relatively minor. What really is the miracle of Hanukkah is that God allowed this ragtag band of Maccabees to defeat a far superior and far more numerous, well-equipped army, and that they held on to it. And so when Yeshua is celebrating this particular cultural day, It only has to do with what the Father has had his hand in. And so he didn't celebrate any other pagan cultural days. And I'm sure there were many that were going on in Judea, Samaria related to Zeus and yada, yada. And so I think the lesson here is that if there's going to be a cultural day that it's going to be in the midst of our messianic our messianic walk, it's really got to be about something that God has ordained, that God has his hand in. And that's kind of sort of why Purim, Yeshua didn't celebrate Purim, but then again, so I wonder why Purim? Well, wait a minute. I might have my history wrong. Well, did Purim come after Yeshua's?
No. No.
It was before.
It was before.
Yeah, long before. So why Purim is not celebrated? Anyway.
You mean why it's not mentioned in the Brit Hadashah?
Yeah. Why is Purim not mentioned? Unless Esther is mentioned. I didn't do my research, but Hanukkah is mentioned, the Feast of Dedication.
Right.
But the Feast of Dedication also had to do with the temple.
Yeah.
Temple. And you probably made that point.
Yeah. So, and the Feast of Esther was outside the land and everything. And in fact, I believe the Lord's name is not even used in the whole book or the whole scroll of Esther. So
that's right.
Well, being a former non-believing Jewish person, why don't you give us some of your experiences with how you did Hanukkah when you were a kid?
Well, as a child, the child's point of view is not that Hanukkah is the Jewish Christmas, because we had nothing to do with Christmas. All we knew was that other people in the town, that there were decorations all over. But they were always Christmas decorations, and everybody says Merry Christmas to you, but nobody says Happy Hanukkah. Unless, like me, my entire world growing up was the Jewish yeshiva that I went to, and it was the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, where it's all Jewish people back in those days. And so I had virtually no Christian friends till I got to high school. So my entire world of social contacts was all Jewish people and Jewish things. And so Hanukkah was a joyous celebration where we remembered, as far as I knew, we knew that the Maccabees won. We knew that they rededicated the temple, and there was a miracle of oil lasting 8 days. I didn't really tie up the miracle of the Jewish army beating the Roman army, but we did of course we lit the Hanukkah candles, and it was great fun. The exchanging of the presents was nice. We liked that as children, of course. Not that important today to me. We don't really do a lot of present exchanging with others at Hanukkah, but we celebrate by lighting the candles and simply lifting up God blessing the nation of Israel and defeating Israel's enemies. That's pretty much how I celebrated it as a child, and how we do it today. So, okay. Yeah.
Now, one of the questions that I
getting a lot of background noise, David, from your speakers, I think.
Well,
your microphone is really hot. So I didn't know if there's a way to cut that back.
There, that's better.
It's really hot. Okay, that's better. Yeah,
that's much better. Yeah. Okay. One of the questions that I emailed you guys was, no, I forgot it.
I've got them here.
If Yeshua participated in extratorical, there's a new word, torical practices, does that not open up the door to say followers
use that as an
during Christmas. What are your thoughts on that? Like I started off with the concept that the meetings in synagogue were not until after the Babylonian exile. That was started in Babylon and brought back to the land. Nowhere in Scripture does it say to meet in a synagogue. In fact, the only passage that I found about what to do on Shabbat was in Exodus 16, 29 and 30. And I talked with Mark about this, that it says, do not leave your tent on that day. So the synagogue system was not instituted until after the Babylonian exile. And yet Yeshua, it was his custom, it says, to meet in synagogue too. So that's another non-Torah thing that Yeshua participated in.
There would have been Levites throughout the land when they went into the land of Israel, and the Levites were the priests of each particular, whatever that meant. I don't know if they did sacrifices throughout the land. I think they only did the sacrifices in the temple, but they would have brought tithes and offerings to the local priests, who would have helped out the local population of the widowed and the orphans and the poor people. And so,
but in terms of meeting, there was only 3 times that the Lord said to meet to come before him in Jerusalem.
Yeah, I should be more well read on the history, but I'd have a hard time imagining that with everybody honoring the Shabbat throughout the land of Israel, and I'm reasonably sure that they did or tried to, that it was woven into the culture that nobody worked on Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they just sat around. I would like to think that they got together, took meals together and discussed Torah together. I would like to think that. No temple, but they all honored the Shabbat, and that was pretty important. My rabbi used to tell me when I was a kid, he would say, "You know what the most important Jewish holiday is?"
Okay.
And I was a son. I said, Yom Kippur. And he said, no, it's Shabbat. Shabbat is the holiest of all the holy days. But so anyway, that's my thoughts on.
Okay. Let me give you where I see it as, and we're always saying the 7 Moedim. Or what? The 6 Moedim, is that what? Okay. Well, Eddie Chumney wrote a book called The 6 Feast Days or something like that, and based on Leviticus 23. And I confronted Eddie one time, and I said, you say the 6 feast days. But in fact, in Leviticus 23, it says, tell the people of Israel the designated times of Adonai, which you are to proclaim as holy convocations, are my designated times. Work is to be done on 6 days, but the 7th is a Shabbat of complete rest, a holy convocation. What is a convocation?
Getting together.
Meeting together. And you're not to do any kind of work as a Shabbat of Adonai, even in your homes. It doesn't say to only stay in your homes. Shabbat is a holy convocation. It is.
Well, what's the Hebrew word that we interpret convocation?
To meet with others.
No, but I mean, what is the Hebrew word that we?
I think it's mikra. I think it's mikra. But there is a word for holy convocation. There is a word for holy convocation, mikra kodesh. So getting together would have been important.
Okay.
Well, like I say, I talked to Eddie about it because of his book, and Eddie did agree. Yes, Shabbat is one of the Lord's Moedim. because he has called it. That's what a Moedim is he's called it. It's a designated times that the Lord put together. So it's right in there with all the other Moedim, and so it should be looked at that way, and every one of them is something. Well, Yom Kippur is not, but still holy convocation, and that's the way I've always understood.
Yeah, I want to add one more. There are 7 once a year Moedim, and then there's 52 once a week Moedim.
That's right.
And then there's 12 monthly Moedim, because on Rosh Chodesh they were also commanded to get together and to I think they blow the shofar, but they get together and they lift up God and say thanks for the monthly moon cycles.
I agree.
Okay.
So yeah, Larry, no. Yeah, Larry, no.
Yeah, Larry, no. Got it.
Anyway, that's the way I see it. That's the way I've always thought about it. I've heard other people say the same thing, but I'm with David. I just have such a problem believing that they did not meet together one way or another before, whatever.
Before
this time or what, before the Maccabees time or whatever like that. So,
here's an example, I think. But even when Rome was occupying Israel, we see this in The Chosen, where Yeshua goes to his town of Nazareth, and in the and this was before the temple was destroyed and before the Jews were kicked out of Jerusalem and before they were kicked out of the land. In I think that might have been in the, I don't know what, 150s, 250s, 350s AD. But when Yeshua goes to this, they all went to the local synagogue, and that was before the temple was destroyed. So you figure if there were local synagogues, then that was the place where they had holy convocations. And for those of us who've been to Israel, we see these little local synagogues in all the towns, and they're really just little one-room places. They could be bigger and bigger towns, but they did. Now that I think about it, we saw a lot of these little local synagogues. I don't know when they were built, but I'm pretty sure they were around back then.
right.
But was that before? Do you think they were?
Yeah, that was before the destruction.
Okay, what about before the Babylonian captivity?
Oh,
because that's what I was referring to.
I see.
That was like 500 years before Yeshua.
Yeah,
that took place. So I don't know if any of the archaeologists have found any synagogues dating back that far or before that. So that's the point that I was making. I think we talked about just about all the questions that I had.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea of doing Hanukkah for Messianics or anybody is a question of your integrity. Make sure if you want to do Hanukkah and you're not Jewish, then be sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and be sure you know the history of it, and that you've talked it over with the Lord, that you want to do this and get a release from the Lord to do it is kind of the way I would say on everything. I don't think a person can do that with Christmas. I really don't. I don't think that you can look into the integrity of Christmas, and if there is any integrity in Christmas, and come to a reasonable, holy, righteous way to look at it at all. I just don't think you can. Not if you're a person of integrity and you're really looking into the reason for doing stuff. But you should never do Hanukkah because you don't want to do Christmas. That's absolutely not a reason to do Hanukkah. And, so in my opinion, anyway, I mean, if you're becoming Messianic or you're looking into it or whatever, you want to live that lifestyle, then search out your reasons for doing whatever you're going to do. Don't just do it because your best friend is now doing it and that's what you want to do and whatever. That's what I've got.
I do want to add one thing about Christmas, and this is from a guy who never celebrated it, couldn't care less about it. Most Christians today truly believe that the Messiah was born on December 25th. And that's something that, we have all kind of figured out in the Messianic walk. Like, it's so cold out there that they really wouldn't have been out there. And especially if he died, if he lived 33 and a half years, if he was born in the spring, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, anyway, it kind of works out that he would have been born more in the fall, because that would have been about 6 months before the Passover, not the winter. But most people buy the fact that they buy the belief.
The custom.
The custom that he was born on December 25th. So they're lifting up the birth of Messiah. Right. I'm okay with that, but then the whole idea of the trees and St. Nicholas, that's another issue. Celebrating the Messiah's birth and saying he's the reason for the season, I'm okay with that. But if you know the truth, if people know the truth, and they say, well, I'm still going to celebrate it. Your reason might have gone out the window. The trees, though, I started having a lot of trouble with trees when I read Jeremiah 10, which tells you don't put up a tree and adorn it with silver and gold. Wow, it's pretty clear, right, in Jeremiah 10. And so I don't know how believers are going to square that one unless they just say, well, everything in the Old Testament's done away with. So, new ball game now.
Right.
Well, I've talked before. One of the main reason that I decided that my family was going to acclimate out of Christianity into a Messianic Torah observant lifestyle was because of, in my word, paganity. Is because I even as a Christian, I knew anything pagan was wrong. I knew that. I mean, I'd been taught that. And I knew that in the history of the Bible that God abhorred anything pagan. Okay. I knew that. So when I come to find out, and when I was told these different things, I decided to search them out for myself. I will have to say the number one thing was to find out that all the Greek gods' birthdays are on December 25th.
Really?
Every Greek, look it up. It's even in the encyclopedia that every Greek god, they all have the same birthday, and it's December 25th. And that's why I was saying earlier that what the deal is here is that the world wants to bring their paganity or their world into holy, not try to bring holy into their life. They are trying to mesh what's holy into their world. So they take the things that are unholy, like anything pagan, and make it holy. And that's where Christmas came from, is they were worshiping the Greek gods anyway. Here comes the one, like it said, I don't remember where it is in the Brit Hadashah, but that there was a statue to the unknown God, and that God's birthday was the same as all the other gods that they made up. And so that was probably the number one reason that I decided, all these things that I've been doing as a Christian, so many of them, let's put it, so many of those things really are based on being pagan. And I just couldn't handle it. I knew that God abhorred things that are pagan. And that was the reason I decided to live a Torah-based lifestyle instead of a Christian-based lifestyle. And I think that's the real key here. Once again, I just can't reiterate enough. If you're deciding to do something different than what you're used to or what the norm is, search it out. Make sure you know what you're doing. Don't just do it because somebody said so. Search it out. I did. And our whole family is living this lifestyle because of what I found out, not what somebody told me was supposed to be. So anyway, that I think that's a huge issue. And of course, the Jeremiah 10 that you're talking about it's pagan. It says right there, that's pagan. And yet it describes exactly what Christians are doing. There's a church 3 miles from my house, a mega church that has, I lost count of how many Christmas trees they had all over the outside, the inside, everything. It's like, oh my gosh, how come you don't just set somebody on their knees in front of that Christmas tree, those Christmas trees? Anyway. We can get back to this in a couple of weeks when we do a Christmas show.
Oh, that's true. Of Messianics.
Wait a minute.
A Christmas show. Oh, you were kidding.
What are you talking about? Last night, my son and wife and I went into a restaurant, and before we walked in, I said, "Hey, you guys won't be embarrassed if I walk in and say, Santa Claus is here." They wouldn't let me do it.
So do you guys still, I mean, if your families are still celebrating Christmas, I'm guessing you go there to be with your family and to love on them, and you've kind of worked that out. Oh, you don't?
That's why I live in North Carolina.
Yeah,
my family's in Ohio. I live in North Carolina.
But my brother and I haven't talked for years. So
oh wow,
doesn't have anything to do, and the whole rest of my family is Messianic. So,
really? Wow.
It's only my daughter and her family and my wife. All my wife's family are Messianic. So
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
My closing thoughts go back to what you were talking about researching things out, and I did that with Hanukkah. I think it was like 15 years ago. And I've kept on researching it. And to me, Hanukkah, the story of Hanukkah is so relevant to today because it's a situation, we're living in a situation in which we're having a government body trying to shove down our throats their way of doing things and trying to get us to trying to outlaw the way that we want to do things because we want to do things the way the Lord says to do things. And we're in that time when, like I said before, the Antiochus Epiphanes is like a role model for the anti-Messiah when he comes. So to celebrate the victory over anti-Torah people is in my mind something to celebrate for 8 days and for however long we want to do it, but 8 days for that reason. And I like the donuts too.
Love it. I'm with you big time. All right. Okay, we ready to go over to the Torah portion? We're going to listen to what Dave has to say, and then Larry and I are going to come in and correct him. So we'll be right.
You got that right.
We'll be right back.
way's bad, my way is so bad. Your way's good, your way makes me glad. My way's bad, my way is so bad. Your way's good, your way makes me glad. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah.
Shabbat Shalom if you're watching this on the Shabbat, and Chag Chanukah Sameach. May you have a joyous and happy time of Chanukah. I am Rabbi David Weiss, as the name implies right there. And I bring you greetings from chilly and beautiful Chesapeake, Virginia. We are in the Parsha reading known as Vayeshev, which means and he was dwelling. And it regards the, we meet Joseph at the age of 17. We hear of Joseph's birth in the last Parsha, but in this Parsha, he's 17 years old, he's a boy, he's a dreamer, and he has prophetic dreams. And it seems like all through this Parsha, the Parsha of Vayeshev begins with Joseph at age 17 telling his brothers that he had a dream that they're all going to be bowing down to him one day, that all of their sheaves of wheat bow down to his. And of course, they're older brothers, and they didn't want to hear that. And of course, the added element of Joseph's life is that his mother is most favored by their father, unlike the other 3 mothers that the other 10 brothers come from. So that's that added element of why they dislike him. He also got this long-sleeved robe, being the son of choice. We find out pretty soon the brothers hate him so much, and the dream is like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And so the brothers sell him into slavery. But what's strange about Joseph is that everywhere he goes along the way, God gives him favor, right? So Jacob lifts him up, and then the brothers hate him and sell him into slavery. Once he's a slave in Potiphar's house, Potiphar lifts Joseph up when he finds there's favor in Joseph, and everything he does is profitable for Potiphar. And then Potiphar's wife brings him down, brings him to criminal ruin, accuses him of sexual assault. When he's in jail, he brings God's favors upon him even in jail. And there's a shalom about Joseph in jail, in prison, because of the false criminal accusations by Potiphar's wife. He's in jail. The prison warden finds he's in favor, kind of puts him in charge of something. I can only think he's like a prison trustee, like today's trustees. So he's in charge of, a lot of things. And then the cupbearer, who is released and goes back to Pharaoh, he forgets about him for 2 years. So one could look at all of this thing and say, what is the use of all this favor over Joseph? Others just turn that favor into disaster. However, if we kind of alter the sequence a little bit, instead of looking as a good thing and then a bad thing, favor and then disaster, what if we look at the disaster leading to the next favor? And so we change the sequence. So where the world would say that what's the good of favor upon Joseph, it always turns into disaster. We find that instead, perhaps the jealousy that the brothers had for him and then selling him was how God was able to rescue him and grant him favor and wisdom in the house of Potiphar. And it's true, then the Potiphar's wife did something horrible to him, but then that just led to Joseph being gifted as a prison trustee. Because if you didn't have the disaster, you wouldn't have had the next step of being trusted and being given favor and rescued every step of the way. So the cupbearer forgets about Joseph for 2 years, but then Joseph will be blessed with favor in the next parsha, where Pharaoh will call upon Joseph, because then the cupbearer remembers him. So every step of the way, Joseph, yes, he has a disaster befall him, but then it always leads to another favor in another place. And I think what it just shows is that when God is sovereign in our lives, as he was in the life of Joseph, we can't always look at something which is a trial and say, God, why me? Why me? What have I done? What sin did I do? I think instead we have to invite God into our trial and say, God, show me how your glory is going to be revealed even in the midst of this trial. How will your glory be revealed as it was? With that, I'd like to bring in my two great and good friends, Larry and Mark, and just to discuss this idea of how we even look at disasters and trials in our lives, as instead of why me, to look at it and say, this is just another opportunity for God to show himself. What do you guys think?
I think that's very difficult to do, but with practice, so to say, with practice, it comes easier. And when it becomes easier, you can truly be an example to other people when you're doing that. I remember the events that were leading to my first divorce. I was so depressed. I was moping around, but I clung to this one tape that a friend of mine gave me. It was the Psalms, and I played that over and over again, and some of it had to do with David whining and stuff like that about his troubles and stuff like that, and yet he was able to praise the Lord, and that made me able to praise the Lord through that. And my sons, now that they're adults, and because they went through the same thing with, they were kids when this was going on, and they tell me that they don't know how I made it through that stuff, and I'm able to tell them it was the Lord that helped me through that. And it's like I said at the beginning, it's hard to do, but with experience, you can do it, and God gets the glory for it.
Okay, I'm muting you, David, because we're muted, or it's too much noise. So, you had said about that he was forgotten for 2 years, and especially, I don't know that I can put up with it for 2 years. I'd be yelling through the bars, every day on the hour, I didn't do it. Let me out, I don't think I would give them any rest, because I can't, I got no patience, and I'm learning at 69, my patience dwindles more every day. And I couldn't imagine being in prison for something that I really didn't do in the first place. And then just, being forgotten for 2 years. I'd probably be letting them know as often as I could that, hey, I'm in here. You can't forget me. Let's get this settled or something. I don't know. I have a hard problem in the first place of being accused of something I didn't do. And then, I don't know, having to go through the repercussions of, something I didn't do. I can't handle that. It's one of my biggest problems. And yet then we look what happened to Yeshua. I mean, put up on the cross for all of our what we didn't do, or what we did do and what he didn't do for us. I mean, he punished for what he didn't do, but he was punished for us. And so I have to keep that fresh. And so it's like, what do? We complain, we bitch and gripe about all the things that are going wrong or not right or something. And yet look at what Yeshua had to endure as a man. He didn't endure it as a God. He endured it as a man. So that we can relate. Anyway, yet still, I think patience is a real hard thing for me to deal with, especially on any level.
Yeah. Maybe in terms of patience, I know especially patience for false accusations or stuff like that, you want to definitely defend yourself. And I think in the case of someone like Yeshua, he knew that his life belonged to the Father. And so when he tells people, if you lose your life, you'll save it. And so when when we stop being so interior all the time and always seeing things through our own lens, believe me, it's a hard thing to do. And I'm working on it every day. I'm glad you say you have to keep that fresh perspective of what Yeshua did for you. And I think it's really important. Any believer has to have has to come to the realization that their life is not their own, that they're now God's servant. And God, how do you want me to serve even in the midst of where I am? Yeah, that's important.
Well, I don't know. I've dealt with different aspects of being accused of something that I didn't do through the years. Most people don't know this, but I've actually been arrested for murder twice, and obviously never convicted. I mean, I was even grabbed up off of the road one time driving my Volkswagen Bug, and I was out on a date for my first date with this girl, and we were driving to the movies, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there were 5 cop cars all pulling me over. And there was no discussion. They literally pulled us both out, put handcuffs on both of us, and took us to the police station. By the time we got to the police station, they had figured out that we were not the people that they were looking for. But yet, I have to say, the date did not go well after that. But it's like, what do you do with that? You live a life of having to do what you need to do with integrity, but yet there are people that don't care about integrity, and they accuse you of things and different things. So I don't know where to go from that point. I just know something that I have suggested through the years, and something that I do, and that is once a month, read a gospel story, or read Yeshua. Take one of the 4 gospels and start from when Yeshua is arrested or goes to the garden, and read it from there to the end. At least once a month, but like every month, pick a new gospel, new Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, a new account, and read through it, and keep it fresh. That thing is who we are. What Yeshua went through is who we are. It is who I am. I'll put it that way to you. I mean, if I don't believe in what happened from the time he went to the garden until the time he was resurrected, If I don't believe that, then I'm not who I am. I'm the world. And so we know this story, but how easy would it be to relate to somebody? If somebody really wanted to know, I don't really know that story. I've never read that. Could you walk them through chronologically from the time that Yeshua entered the garden till the end of the book? Could you do that? And I'm going to tell you, I've asked the question to people before, and they can't do it. They can't tell you what happened to Yeshua or even why it happened to Yeshua. And that's sad. That's sad to say that you believe in the Messiah, or I'm messianic or whatever, and not be able to tell somebody in a way they can understand it what actually happened. And that's why I mean keeping things fresh is I think we let things go by and we don't even know how to express it ourselves.
That's profound. It really is.
David, you're muted. I think you muted yourself this time. I think I didn't do it. Right?
Yeah, no, it was me. Yeah, that is, I agree with Larry. That is profound. And it is to be able to tell the story off the top of your head. And, it may not know it word for word, but you can tell his story. And from the time that he was first, the dove of the Spirit of the Lord fell upon him. And this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. And to tell all those stories is up until his last night. And it is important to be able to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the only way to tell the story is to know that story in your heart. Yeah. And why. It's not only tell the story, but why did Yeshua die? Why and what did he go through to make that happen? And how does it relate to us? And each and every single one of us should be able to do that, and sometimes in detail to help people understand. And I think that really goes along with this is that, it's one of those things that we would no longer hold the fact that things happen to us that shouldn't happen to us. Look at Yeshua. It's like whatever. And I have to constantly remind myself. I really do. I have to keep that fresh.
I think most Christians do know what happened to them. And they could concur with all the stories that we would share with each other. But the one thing that a lot of Christians don't know, is we Messianics do, is that his whole mission is not something that just started when he stepped into flesh, but it started with the foundation of the world, and it continued with the covenant that was given to Abraham. He's a fulfillment of covenant. And so it's very much a Torah story. And that's something a lot of Christians don't know that we can certainly help them with, and should be able to voice that, to link up how Yeshua exactly fulfilled all of the requirements for the shedding of blood for sin. Right. I don't know if people know where it comes from.
Right. I agree.
And the correlation between the story of Joseph and Yeshua. I mean, there are so many points in Joseph's life that can be directly pointed toward Yeshua and what he put up with.
So true. He's called Yeshua ben Yosef, and he is called Yeshua ben David. So he's came as the suffering servant, as Joseph was, and he'll come back as the king. And pretty amazing. There's a lot of parallels.
And the statement that Joseph makes at the end, do not feel bad about what you did to me, because it was for your salvation or for saving of the family. that I went through this. And
yeah, you meant it for bad, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. I love that. I love that verse.
Yeah,
It just always gives me strength.
I agree.
I want to go back to something at the beginning of Joseph's life. Was Joseph a little hasty in sharing the dream with his brothers? Is there a possibility that he didn't just, why did God give him that dream? And did God want him to tell his brothers? Was it all part of him being sold into slavery that he was, or did God simply use a young boy's, was he throwing it in their faces is what I'm saying? Or is it something that was completely innocent?
My take on it was that he was the privileged son, and he was naive in his dealings with his brothers because of his special position in his father's eye. And something happens to you, and you just, hey, listen to this dream that I had, and it's the brothers that that interpreted things the way that it was going to happen. And in the second dream, also, it's like maybe he should have been a little bit more cautious in the second dream after being lambasted for the first dream. But again, I think it was naivety on his part. What could go wrong with me sharing my dreams? Huh?
Well, I'm not convinced that this was, well, even if it just happened, I think that it was for Joseph. It wasn't for anybody else. I mean, him being able to relate it to the Pharaoh or to his brothers or anything like that, he had to have that for Pharaoh. I mean, he had to, because it set the course for the drought and the famine and the plenty and everything. It set that forth, and it was very prominent for him to tell Pharaoh this so that things would happen from that point on. His brothers, on the other hand, I think he didn't have to relate any of that. He didn't have to tell them that. It just process the way that it did. I don't know. That's the way I've always kind of seen it. So, David, go ahead. I took you off. You can take it off, David. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm on. Okay. Thank you. It's okay. Later, though, when Joseph goes to Egypt and they don't know he's Joseph, and they realize later that dream that he told us, it's coming true.
Yeah.
How would we have known? So if they hadn't known that dream, maybe they wouldn't have known that God was a part of it from the very beginning. That they do bow down to him.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to. God said that was, yeah.
And again, the relationship between Yeshua and Joseph, the prophets say, they will look upon me whom they crucified and they will cry. The same thing that the brothers did. They look upon Joseph, who they treated so poorly, and they were scared, and they cried in their fear. I mean, that just blows my mind, the correlation there. Yeshua ben Yosef, all over the place.
Well, with you, I love it. It's one of the best stories to relate to these kind of things. Once again, I'm constantly looking at what proves the Bible, what proves these stories, without actually having a physical evidence of something. Your when you're trying to prove something, if you can have evidence of that or something like that. But when they all come together like they do, and they come together later on, and all these things always are proving the Bible to me, proving the stories, as being relatable and that type of thing. I think there's just too many people that don't even believe that what's written in the Bible really did happen. They're just stories written by people and put together, networked into a book and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's one thing that really helps us to know the Lord, is knowing how they all relate. And if you're a Christian and all you're going to read is that New Testament, to me, just reading the New Testament does not prove the Lord to me. That's all there is to it. That's why years ago in my Christian walk, I constantly had red flags. I would read things out of the Brit Hadashah, and it was like, man, I don't get this. Why did this happen? Why are they doing? What's this about? That ain't right. What, how come? And then when you go back to Torah and you start reading Torah with the light of the Brit Hadashah, it's like doors and windows are flying open. The understanding is just flying open. Yeah. And we're going to fly out of here because I've taken it too far again. So we're done.
Good segue.
Yeah.
I love you guys. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
We're done. As always, it's always great. Hopefully we can get David in for a full show. I kind of like having David.
I think we got to pay him more. That's what it is.
Anyway, we'll see.
I won 4 times, but you guys are getting paid 4 times.
Okay.
You got
right.
Checks in the mail.
All right. We'll see y'all next week. And if you missed any part of this or want to see it again or tell somebody about it, it'll be up for the next week on Lambs On Demand part of the website. So thank you all for joining us, and God bless. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Have a good Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah.
He's dancing again.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.